Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you? Then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Felis Mengus, Smith Tools and Purchase, Level Plain Poem, Vitali Z, Colton James, F.E. Patriot, Thomas van der Zander, Measured Flat, Chris Wouters, Mir in the Shire, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, J Mels 24, U Unimento, Iron 26, Retro Bill, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Texas Mike, Chow Yun Cat, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. As I say, links to Patreon are below this video. And with that, I will hand across to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show. Well, you lot are a very chatty bunch.
Oh, I've said highlight a couple of times and talked about the weather already. I didn't think anyone was listening.
I wasn't.
Ah. No, just talking about how it's finally getting cold outside. Well, cold for Alabama anyway. It's not cold for the rest of the real world.
Oh my god.
Like when it drops below 40, when it drops below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, that's when all the old ladies start putting on scarves and gloves and big thick coats. It's funny.
I find it more amusing the other way around when we get to spring. People don't notice. So they're being told, it's still winter. You're like, there's flowers, there's newborn lambs coming. This is back when my folks lived on a farm. So maybe that's not apparent for everybody, but for me it was. And you travel down the street and everyone wearing thick duffel coats and hats and scarves. And you're like, I'm in a t-shirt. You know, it's sunny. It's like over 20 degrees.
Yeah.
Why would you be in a duffel coat? But because it's apparently winter, you've got to wear a duffel coat, right? It's like, no. As soon as the sun comes out, I'm in a t-shirt.
Did you say you grew up on a farm?
No. My parents moved to a farm, so I didn't grow up on a farm. But my folks did live on a farm for a time.
Mm. Oh, that's nice.
No, I grew up in the middle of a city, and then they kind of went the other extreme when they wanted to retire. So they went from living in a very, what would you call it, built-up area, like very busy, lots of traffic and all that kind of stuff, to the other end of the extreme in the middle of nowhere where their nearest neighbour was several miles away.
Yeah.
They had no water supply and things like that, so they had to drill a borehole to get water when they ran out once. I think it was a spring, but you know, maybe 15, 20 years ago, they ran out of water completely. So the spring that they did have coming out the side of a hill just dried up completely. And like I say, they ended up drilling a borehole to get to their water supply. But there was always something unusual going on, as it's a farm. And, you know, farmers are a strange breed.
Yeah. Okay, so that, because I was thinking about that the other day about, the UK, how, I mean, people have been living there for, I mean, see, that's the thing I like about the UK is like if you see a building, that building could be almost 1,000 years old that you're looking at. And it's
Yeah,
like
the
there's
cottage-
always been
yeah,
people
exactly.
on this island.
The cottage that they lived in is
so
probably
I was-
older than your whole history. So their cottage was 500 years old. And that was just normal.
Right.
So just the fact that it was, extended here, there and everywhere. And obviously there were bits of it that weren't that old and bits of it that they'd specifically built onto it with. But there were various bits of it that were literally 500 years old. And you could tell by the heights of the doorways. So both me and my dad, before he died, would walk into the tops of the, what would you call it? Like a stone frame around a doorway. So between what was an outside door, and then at some point, maybe, I don't know, 70 years ago, someone had built an extra room onto the outside of the house and made it into their kitchen. But that meant that the previous outside door, with its outside door frame and thick stone, like a tunnel almost, because it was so big and thick, was only 5'9", 5'10" high, like well under 6 foot. Now, if you weren't paying attention, you'd just walk, me and my dad, who are both well over 6 foot, would just walk straight into the frame of this door. But the frame was solid rock, and I got concussion at least once. He got concussion at least once. I think I knocked myself out once completely.
Oh,
You're
Lord.
just in a hurry. I think it was on a Christmas, and you're just rushing to get something from the kitchen, and you just walk straight into a brick wall, basically, not even brick, stone wall, and suddenly you're unconscious.
The house I grew up in Massachusetts was like that. The house I lived, and again, like very old for the United States, but not old for anywhere else. I think the house was built in like 1875, and all the it's a two-story house, but all the ceilings on the first floor were no more than 6 feet high. And I was always confused. I'm like, why are the ceilings so low? But then my dad's like, well, because back in the day they had these fireplaces and heat rises, so they didn't want the ceilings to be high, so they could be more economic with their firewood. I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah, the roofs, the ceiling in our old house was real low on the first floor, and it was because of that.
Yeah.
And like you'd go to like the cemeteries and stuff, and like the oldest, like sometimes you would see like a grave from like 1680, and that was like I used to think, wow, that's so old. But then like you go to other countries and it's like there's stuff that's 1,000 years older than that, and it's normal. And it's just weird because as an American, everything here is still relatively new. You got some places in Florida that might be like 1550s from the Spanish, but like we don't have any of that old world stuff for real here. It's very rare. Everything here is new. Like the town I live in was incorporated in 1974, and like it's so weird. Like this town's like almost as old as my older brother.
Right. I mean, the church we got married in was a 15th century church.
Nice.
And then the work that it had done on it was done in 1847. I'm just looking it up now. You're like, wow. So when a lot of stuff was being established in America, they're renovating the church. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And see, I was wondering, because I was on Google Earth a couple days ago, and I was just in like, was like looking around England and stuff, and I'm like, everyone's like, because it's not a big place, the island, like UK. I mean, it is, but it isn't, especially compared to the United States. It's not very big. And like, there's always been people here. So and you kind of answered my question, like, are there any places where it's still extremely rural and people still like, but you said your parents 15 years ago had to dig a well for water. So,
Yeah.
because I was wondering if that kind of stuff still existed over there, because it's been populated for a couple thousand years, and there's
I'm
like
just
the
I'm just looking at
towns
this
there have
church
always
again.
been there.
Sorry to interrupt. I just looked it up because I thought, oh, no, that can't be right. I'm sure it was older than that. So I dug a little deeper, and no, it does go back further. So that was a renovation in the 15th century. So they added a west wing to it in the 1500s, but it dates back to 1121 according to the records, and became a parish church in 1291. You're like, wow. So
Yeah.
it's so old. I mean, you can tell. You've only got to look at it, and it's really, really old building. I really like the church we got married in. It's literally just up the road from us, like walking distance. But it's ancient. It's the one in the video that I did with the benchmarks. So there's a benchmark on it. Ordnance
Yeah.
Survey benchmarks. There's one carved into the side of the building.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we don't have anything like that in the States. Everything here is, like I said, I mean, 1860s is considered ancient for something here, when really it's just a drop in the bucket compared to other countries. I mean, I imagine Australia, I mean, they're all the same, like all the Australia, the United States, all that, all these places.
Well, we exported all the people there, didn't we?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, lying to
Like
them
we get all
about
these
it
weird,
being the land of the free. I mean, that propaganda came much, much later, but, you know, an idea of a land of opportunity for pilgrims. Again, I say it tongue in cheek because even that came much, much later. That notion of pilgrims. In fact, I was watching a video
Yeah.
about that Irish girl that we had on that was talking about things being cognitively expensive, talking about the Pilgrim Society. Again,
Right.
the group where a lot of them know of the actual origin story and how people were misled into basically slave labour, many of them reaching your shores and finding poverty and disease and a lack of food, a lack of shelter, and most of them dying. You're like, wow. And the Pilgrim Society is essentially a mask for that truth. And the whole Pilgrim's story, all wholesome, even the narrative about Thanksgiving, it's just made up. It's just propaganda. We normally
Yeah,
on
there's
this,
literally no truth to the Thanksgiving story. But we're taught it in school is like, oh, the Indians and the Pilgrims had a nice little meal together
yeah,
once.
exactly. But much of it is just propaganda. So you can't tell a story where people are misguided into travelling to lands far away on boats that they all, all but a good chunk of them die on through disease, and then when they get there, they're expecting a land of opportunity, and there's like poverty, famine. It's like it's not what they were promised at all.
Yeah, and all these pilgrims are dying in the winter, and then the quote unquote savages are like, "Damn, we gotta go help these morons down the street. Give them some fish or something so they don't die." It's horrible.
A lot of that, the reason I was watching that was because I was interested in the cartography aspect of it. So the map makers were as much propagandists as the people in the Pilgrim Society. In other words, the perception of where you're going and what you'll be doing there is created through cartography and mapping. So you can create
Hello.
an illusion with those things. That's why you end up with thousands of them that are all distorted and wrong.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
How are
Good
you?
morning.
Yeah, good, mate. Just jumped in this second. Are you okay?
All good?
I'm great.
Fantastico.
I've been on mute in the whole time.
Just-
I've been on mute in the hangout the whole time we've been talking, Vaxi. Sorry.
Oh, damn.
I thought that's more rude. That's ruder than One Deck typically is. He's talking straight through me. He doesn't normally do that. And then I realised I'm on mute in the hangout. Hello,
Sorry.
Nicholas. We've been chatting for about the last 10 minutes about pilgrims, and you just missed out on it all because I had myself on mute in the hangout. Sorry.
I'm sure it would have been good.
You can watch it in the after show. Uncut and after show. You know what I mean?
The pilgrims. Oh shoot! You know what I saw last night before I went to sleep, Nathan? It's like way off topic. I saw your Vice interview. I'd never seen it before, and I watched it last night. I'm like, oh boy, it was funny.
What with the theremin in the background?
Yeah, I think you had like a fedora hat on, and like you were kind of standing. Where, you were standing somewhere where maybe there was like water behind you, or like a vast distance.
Oh
And
man, what a terrible it's disservice they did to the location. So, like a lot of filmmakers, they didn't gain permission to be where we were, and we were at Alexandra Palace, which is an enormous transmitter. Now, in hindsight, I could have talked about the distances that transmitter works at across the entirety of the UK to give people television and radio signals through brute force. That's to say, just a great big amplifier running on that giant transmitter. But they had the camera pointing to the view out into the distance, which was quite big. I mean, it was probably a 20-mile view, maybe even further. But behind us was this enormous transmitter. Is anybody here in the panel, maybe One Deck or Craig, have you ever been to Ali Pali?
No.
Okay, I'll have to dig out a picture of it. Maybe I'll put it on the thumbnail. But It's a sight to behold. And they did the interview, and they're like, look, if anybody comes over, just say we're students doing a film project. Because they were relatively young, you could get away with it. But sure enough, towards the end of the interview, a security guard came over, and they're like, we're students. He went, I don't care. Get lost. You're not supposed to be here. It's private property. Get off. And we're like, okay. So we start walking away. They're like, but we haven't actually finished the interview. Can we carry on doing it while we're walking away? I'm like, fine. So as we're walking down the hill with security literally behind us, marching us off the site, they're carrying on doing the interview. Now, you can't see the security guard, but he's literally behind in that frame. He's just behind us, escorting us off the property. Yeah, they paid me to do that. By paid me, I mean they paid all of my expenses. They didn't actually leave me in profit, but I wasn't out of pocket for doing it. They covered all my expenses. They covered my train ticket. Got me lunch. Very nice of them.
What was you doing, Nathan? Sorry, I'm just fiddling about. What were you doing? Interviewing somebody?
No, I was being interviewed by Vice.
Oh, right. Okay.
It was in the days where I got offered. I mean, I don't so much now. I mean, every so often, once maybe a year, I'll get offered something, and I'll ultimately nearly always turn it down. But back then, I was getting dozens of offers to do interviews, and I would sound out the interviewer, and figure out what they were like. That is to say, whether or not they were friend or foe. And it didn't take long, to figure out what their agenda was just by chatting to them, or how elusive they were. Evasive, is that the right word? Like shady, not wanting to talk to you. I can't think of the right word. It doesn't matter. I think evasive is the correct word. In any event, many of the people who would ask me to do interviews, you try and get in touch with the person who's actually doing the interview, and they just wouldn't want to talk to you. They'd be like 2 or 3 word answers. You're like, if I can't even have a decent conversation with you, generally speaking, I already know instinctually that you're going to want to ridicule and mock me. So the perfect example was, I think it was the Daily Mail. Mark Sargent put me in touch with the Daily Mail. Same thing. They're like very standoffish, didn't want to communicate much with me, just wanted to know if I'd do it or not. And I was like, no. So then they passed it on to a woman who was in the Sun and Moon group at the time. This is 9 years ago. She did the interview, and they ridiculed her like she was some sort of witch. And I thought, yeah, I remember thinking, if I do that interview, they'll just mock me. Now, Vice, very different kettle of fish. Ultimately, they did put... The only thing they did that I didn't like necessarily was that... Is it theremin, however you pronounce that instrument? Where you put your hand in the field and it goes, woo! You know what I mean? Like a spooky sound effect. They put that over the top of it. Other than that, they went through the questions with me. I was quite happy with them. They did them in front of Alexandra Palace, apart from when we got escorted away by security. And it was all perfectly, above board, and I didn't feel like they were just there to mock me. And the end result wasn't terrible either. I mean, it's a little bit feast of nonsensey now looking back on it, but that was as good as I could have produced at the time. I struggled to say the word sphericity, and that got mocked by our opponents for about 6 months.
You can understand, well, you can't understand it, but you get mocked by the anti-flat earthers within this arena. But if somebody genuinely wants to interview you, to find out a little about you and your thoughts on the nature of Earth, you think they'd be interested with your replies and what you're putting forth to them, wouldn't you? And think, oh right, yeah, I can see your point, where you're coming from, and absorb the information and as an experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's exactly all I look for. It's like, are you actually interested in what I've got to say? Because then I know when we do the interview, you'll listen. Now, if you're not, before we've even sat in front of each other, there's a good chance that you've got an agenda you want to push, and you only need me there as a figurehead to be mocked. Well, I'm not interested in that, and never was. So most of the interviews 10 years ago that I was being offered, I turned down, much to people who were passing them on's irritation. So Mark Sargent, especially, he was really good. He would constantly pass them on and be like, "I recommend this guy. This is Nathan. He's a good guy. He'll do your interview for you." They'd get in touch and I'd be like, "No, I'm not doing an interview for you. You're just going to mock me." It's the same when people are like, "You won't come to my neutral platform." You're like, I'll go anywhere if I feel like I'm going to get a fair crack. And if I feel like there's a 50-50 chance I won't, at the very least, I'd want my expenses covered. That is to say, any lost money that I would lose from doing it. Now, in the case of, like, now, if somebody said, "Come on my show," I'd be like, well, my show generates income for me. That's why I do it daily. Now, beyond that, I mean, even now as we're speaking, I'm looking at updates from microphones that I've purchased. I recently dipped into profit for the first time in 10 months. After buying and selling and buying and selling and buying and selling, I actually got into profit. I still got stock, like, to sell, but I was, making money. But now with the book needing so much work, I'm going to have to buy more microphones. So I can hear microphones clicking away in the background as I've just bought a load to sell. Hopefully it's a profit. And that's me doing two things at once because needs must, right? I need to pay my mortgages. I need to pay the bills for the electricity or the phones or whatever it is I'm paying bills for, like any normal person. But that means that there's such a limitation on my time that if someone approaches me as like, "Come and debate with me on this platform," I'm like, "Just pay me." Now, in the past, when that's happened, people have actually paid me to be on their platform. They've enticed me by giving me a super chat or sending me a PayPal. They're like, "Here's 20 quid. And by the way, would you be up for doing a debate? I'd pay you X amount of money to do so." Now, in the past, I've actually mentioned it. I think it was a couple of $100, but I got paid twice by the individual who paid me. I'm not going to specifically mention them. I don't want them harangued. But nevertheless, one of the debates I did, I got paid for. And I got paid a couple of $100 before and a couple of $100 after, which I wasn't expecting. I was like, "Oh, I agreed to do it for a couple of $100. That's all I thought I was going to get." I got it, I did it, and then I got it again. So I was over the moon. It was like, great, that's fantastic, really
nice.
out. But since then, somebody got in touch and was like, it was somebody Neil mentioned in the chat saying, "I've got in touch with Nathan to ask and I will pay him," and he's not responded. Well, I found that person's third email that I'd missed. Can you hear that blinging in the background? Hopefully not. Hopefully my shotgun's blocking out my eBay notifications. Anyway, they got in touch, third email, and I said, "Look, I haven't seen your other two emails. I'm sorry. I've got thousands, literally a day, that come through of emails, so it's easy to miss something. However, if you want me to do your show, tell me what your server's called and, pay me, basically." And I got a response, which would be the fourth email, addressing things that I'd put in the reply, like, "There is no debate, Earth's measured flat, but if you want me to go through that with you on your server, let me know which server you've got your name of it and I'll have a look at it." In other words, I was prepared to put a little bit of work in. But at this point, the person hasn't given me a dime. And then they start arguing with me in the reply to my reply about Earth being measured flat and about my need to sell microphones. Like, "Oh, I'm sorry you're so busy selling microphones," or something like that, just condescending tone. And as soon as I read it in the first line of their reply, I'm like, I saw 3 paragraphs below, where you glance over something and you can see that they're addressing me talking about flat Earth measurements in the email body. I'm like, you haven't given me a frickin' dime, but you expect me to sit and read this crap in response to my reply where I basically said, "Yes, of course I'll do your show, but pay me money." But you expect me to spend 20 minutes going through your email? No. So I'm like, not reading, "You're obviously a time waster, get lost." That was my response after having a cursory glance at the 3 or 4 paragraphs he'd put in response to me. Like, these people expect me to enjoy having my time wasted by them. You're like, if you want me to go on your show, you just have to pay me. Now, in the past, it doesn't matter how hostile a person's been, and in one particular instance, extremely hostile, as long as I'm getting paid, I'm like, I'm good, I don't mind your hostility, so long as I'm getting paid to do it. That's to say, it's got to outstrip the amount of money I can make flogging microphones or doing my own show. And if it doesn't, then get lost. Why would I give up my time to do that so that you can mock me? And the ones that especially get my goat are the ones that expect me to do it for free. "Oh, you won't go on this neutral platform for free." Like, no, you're absolutely bloody right, I won't. Why the hell would I when I'm here doing this for a living? This is how I make my money. But you want me to go and do what I do for a living for free? Get lost. You must be having a laugh.
You know what it is, Nathan? They think because you're doing a YouTube show that it's not work. Because they would never ask somebody like a carpenter or a floor cover or a painter to come and do their house for free. They don't look at what you do as work. And that's the problem.
I don't care what they see me doing what as. This generates my revenue to pay my mortgage with. Mortgages.
Exactly.
So it's like, if you want to drag me away from this in any way or capacity, you have to pay me. Now, at the point that, like I say, even reading emails is taking away my time, my precious, precious time. It's like, no, I'm not going to read your endless replies. You know, if you, by comparison, just dropped $20 on me and were like, here's $20 just to show you that I've got intent to pay you. You're like, okay, fair enough. Then spending 10 minutes reading through an email where they're arguing with me, you're like, okay, obviously you're hostile, but you've paid me $20. At the very least, I can read your email and gauge how hostile you are before I agree to do whatever you haven't paid me yet for, and then negotiate a price based on probably the hostility. Now, if you get that, in my mind, it's like, well, if you're going to be hostile to me before we've even encountered each other, that's, say, via email, with a fake name, I might add. That guy was called Roger That. And again, part of my response was, Roger That? Grow up, you pathetic little schoolboy, is what I'm thinking while I'm writing. This isn't a real name. Me, I'm called Nathan Oakley. You can address me as Nathan Oakley. That's because it's my name. Not Roger That. That's not a name. That's a pathetic schoolboy nickname that you've given yourself to communicate with others. Now, I don't do that because I'll stand by what I've done over my career on YouTube. Everything I've done, I stand by. So when it comes to Vice, if I went back and studied it, I'd be like, I probably wouldn't have that rhetoric today. But does it mean that I disagree with everything I've done, that I've done about turns like Jaron? No, absolutely not. For the most part, you can see the progression in terms of my rhetoric changes, why it's changed, and how it's changed through demonstrated videography experience. But people who do about turns, 180-degree flip-flops, whatever you want to call them, those sorts of people are probably far more inclined to get better viewership and therefore, far more inclined to give up their time because they've got plenty of it? Because they don't need to spend their time producing 4 or 5 videos a day like I have to?
Yeah, it's very, very unfair. The deck is stacked against you. And it's a shame because I know you do a lot of work. Everybody thinks it's just so easy. You just push a button. I'm sure it's a lot of hours and a lot of time. How do you read all those emails?
I don't.
I got about 50,000 emails. I haven't looked at one of them.
I don't read them all. I quickly scan through my emails for things that I specifically want from them. Now, there's often things in there that you go, maybe that would benefit me if I dedicated a bit of time to it, but I haven't got time to dedicate it to it. So, like I say, what will get my attention? Money. Like most people. Yeah, give me money and I'll suddenly pay them a lot more attention. That's an email. But as for just random email that might speculatively, sod that, I haven't got time for it. I was saying it yesterday. Brian got in touch about Adam, saying he wants to talk to me or got a message for me. I couldn't give a crap. I'm not interested. I haven't got the time. So I don't care. It's like, well, are you going to get a response? No. Now, when I was trying to negotiate my 5th draft back, because it would save me time, then I was communicating with them, all keen, and they ignored me. Now I'm expected to, drop everything because Brian sent me a bleeding message about Adam wanting to communicate with me. It's like, no, you don't get it, do you? You've cost me time now, as in past tense. Now you can both go to hell. Brian included. Me listening to Brian say, well, if circumstances were different, you'd be the arsehole here. You're like, oh, well, that's one way of saying these two are complete arseholes, isn't it? By reversing the situation, putting us in a parallel universe where I'm the unreasonable one. So, Brian, same thing. It's like, I haven't got time for you anymore.
How are you?
How are you all? Yes.
I'm all right.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Adams, making contact Nathan Oakley immediately.
I didn't hear a
You know
word
you've
of
got to
that,
do
Jim.
that. So do
Breaking
it.
up.
I was saying that message to Adam to contact you immediately if he's listening to the show.
Why would you do that? What are you
I
talking
think
about?
it's too late.
What are you talking about, Jin?
Well, because you said
Oh no,
that
I thought that Brian sent you a message or something that you were to contact Adam, and I thought it should be the other way around. He should be contacting you straight away.
So I can
That's all.
so I can ignore him directly. What are you talking
Well,
about?
okay, you might ignore him directly, but it's the right thing to do, though. You know, he might have an explanation to something.
I'm
what
not
we're
interested.
saying is when
Did you not
when
hear
somebody's got a problem with somebody, they call them. They don't go to somebody else.
Did
If
you
I
not hear
got
the
a
bit
problem
where-
with you, Nathan, I'm going to call you.
Hello. He's not talking to you, Neil. No, Jin. No, I've lost all interest. I gave deadlines, timelines, ultimatums in terms of what I wanted and when I wanted it by. At which point, once the line's drawn under that, I'm not interested anymore. I don't care what anybody wants to communicate with me in that regard. So no, I don't care. I'm not going to be interested, regardless of if anybody gets in touch in that regard. My interest waned a time ago. So no, you didn't need to do that.
Well, that's okay. That's very understandable from your point. Thank you very much.
No problem. Ideally, you wouldn't take it upon yourself to suggest people do things on my behalf in future, but thank you anyway. Anyway, let's do housekeeping in the truest sense of the word, as Neil was moaning yesterday that we haven't done housekeeping. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
I don't know. Let me call
Negative.
Adam and see.
Hang on, absolutely not there.
What's with all the references to my former, now sacked, trumped-up secretary? I don't get it.
Well, when you were starting the show, we were having a little conversation. And the conversation was, and I said exactly what you said. The deadline was, it's over. They should have contacted you immediately instead of going through Brian. What kind of nonsense is this? Why wasn't that done in the beginning? I got a problem with somebody, I call them. I got an issue with somebody, I call them. I don't call one deck to get in touch with Jin. Just man up. It's too late anyway.
Yeah, it's too late. Job's a good one. My wife's already on chapter 8. The skeleton's being formed. While it's being formed, I'm writing various different chapters about various different people. I wrote about you today, Neil, during my eldest daughter's art history class. I wrote a little bit about you. Do you want me to see if I can extract it? And without giving too much away. Man, there's a lot I've written. See if I can find the bit about Neil. Talk amongst yourselves for a second, otherwise it's going to be a lot of dead air where I try and find this bit about
I'll
Neil.
say something. Nathan, you would be the perfect guy growing up in Brooklyn because you are a scutch. So it goes from nobody getting a mention to freaking Huey and Adam getting a mention to them wanting authorship, the whole thing going out the window, you doing it over again from what you have by reading through listening to the videos, right, that you recorded, and then you're telling stories about everybody. You are going to piss so many people off.
It's a
Is it
comedy of
about
errors.
Neil's time in prison?
No, it's not about Neil's time in prison, you cheeky sod. There we go, I found it. I'll just read out a couple of sentences. While some of this information might have some truth to it, 90% of it was A, unrelated to how flat Earth was and always will be measured, even when claiming you're on a ball, and B, served only to alienate the general public away from the subject of flat Earth based on conspiracy subjects that surrounded it and the conspiracy theories that believed, rather than measured, Earth as a flat plane. In late 2025, one of the participants of my show Flat Earth Debate, Neil Constantino, stated that flat roads come from conspiracy, a spin on the fact that, quote, all roads lead to a flat Earth, the latter being an acknowledgement that when you look at any argument in the subject of flat Earth, you will eventually find yourself measuring the Earth flat, like with horizontal distances. And to get around this awful fact required in globe Earth claims. It is required to make the subject of flat Earth not about measurements, unless using them to argue about how a ball should or should not function, ignoring how flat the measurements are, but instead focusing on how people are and how crazy they are when they talk about melting buildings, Antiquitech, Mandela Effect, 9/11 Truth, clone centres, and much, much more.
I guess that answers your first housekeeping question. You need to measure the Earth flat first to extrapolate the sphere to then come to a center of the Earth.
Yeah, it's a derivation, if I could get the word out, of the radial value that you can either extrapolate from Al-Biruni's methodology of dip angle when utilising parallel eye level to surface level, horizontal distance and elevation angle measurements of a flat earth to a mountain to gain its height with trig. Alternatively, you can use the minimum elevation angle of Polaris, again with a flat circle, to derive a radius, flat and straight, to then infer sphericity based on the angle of the Polaris-based system that you've utilised, with its minimum being the equator or equatorial plane. So therefore, your centre of the presupposed spherical Earth isn't so much a centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, and more centre of a Earth that's been measured flat to derive a inference of sphericity, violating the initial baseline that you've measured flat to achieve it.
Very good.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
90.
You're gonna need a flat earth for that.
Check. No. In the school books, all right? Well, kids are in school right now learning this, that I think it's 92 million miles away at this present day.
Again, to achieve that, you need to measure Earth flat to derive a radial value for the equator. Not a globe Earth, outside edge thereof, but the flat plane that gives you a minimum visible angle to the star known as Polaris, or the North Star. Once you've got that radial value at 3959, or a close approximation there too, you can then superimpose that value onto Venus and scale the whole Keplerian orbital motion. That's Christian Huygens' contribution to the heliocentric worldview. Once you've got that, that's to say you've got the orbital motion, which doesn't give you any distance and doesn't give you any size. It just gives you the motion. Heliocentric in nature, heliocentric being sun-centric, as in Helios being the sun, centric at the centre. Well, once you've got that, you can then, with Christian Huygens' use of the superimposition of Earth's radius derived from flat Earth measurements onto Venus for its transit in front of the sun. That's to say, when Venus occults the sun, partially, the transit of Venus, you can use that with an assumption that Venus has the same radial value as Earth to scale everything, at which point you get your 1 AU value, or 93 million miles. But you need a flat Earth to start the whole process off, to start superimposing that flat Earth radial derivation onto Venus.
But I don't think they teach that.
No, they don't teach that, Neil. They just tell you that they've got the distance, and they know because we know. Because aren't we smart? Got very expensive telescopes and that. Or they claim they're bouncing radar off black bodies.
It's 46 million miles.
Is that in Sasha's?
Yeah, because in my calculation, the Venus is the half size of the Earth.
You're going to need a flat Earth to derive any value for a radial spherical Venus value in Kepler's orbital motion. You can't just decide that you're going to give it a different name and give it a different value. You need something else to scale it with. You can't just randomly do it like Huygens did. How dare you? Only Huygens can randomly ascribe Earth's flat Earth measured radial value onto Venus. You're not allowed to do that. You're not Christian Huygens.
But I can assume better than them.
Sorry to interrupt you there. You might want to try Jay Tolan Media One, because he seems to have given an estimate of 5,000 miles from the Earth's surface to the sun using his optical. I'll post the video in the side chat for those who are listening. Okay.
Yeah, but if you're using elevation angles to measure the sun, it will change.
He needed a flat Earth for that, for sure.
What I was going to say is, as the sun reaches the horizon, does that mean it's at zero? Is the height zero?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. The sun is still over a different part of the land with a zenith position. You can still have the sun over X piece of land at your zenith, whilst next man is looking at it on the horizon. That doesn't mean it reaches a value of zero, therefore is touching the ground. It just means that you're measuring its elevation angle to be zero. You can't acquire heights through extrapolated elevation angle measurements of the lights in the sky. It's not possible.
No, I meant on using the equipment, it would be 0, wouldn't it? Because that's where it's at, on the horizon. It's not on the horizon for somebody else, obviously, in another country. Obviously not.
Yeah, but that means you've got multiple different variations of angle at any given time. Well, you're saying that it's varying in its altitude at a given time? Of course not.
No.
Also, when you raise in altitude, the elevation angle does not change from your local position. You can still measure the same elevation angle. So if you go up 1,000 feet, you'd expect the sun to decrease in angle. But it doesn't. Neither do the stars. The only exception to that rule is when you're looking at the sun at the diffraction limit on the horizon, where it can reach and breach a limitation of angular resolution because it's close to the deck from your perspective. And then when you raise in elevation, you increase the angle, bringing it back from the diffraction limit. But beyond that exception to the rule, you cannot change the angle as you raise in altitude. The reason we can utilize what's on screen now, that's acquisition of co-altitude and circle of equal elevation, that's a flat earth prerequisite elevation angle measurement off a flat surface, is because the lights do not change as you raise in altitude. Ergo, you cannot ascribe a height to the stars or sun. It's not possible.
Or physicality.
So what does that tell you about the sun?
Say again?
What does that tell you about the sun? And like where it is?
Doesn't tell you anything.
Here we go.
Doesn't tell you anything. It just tells you can't measure its height.
Well, it's somewhere, right?
Yeah, in
Or
the
wrong.
sky.
It's above a certain position
Always.
on a map when you're navigating with it and measuring angles with it.
It's not the same as a terrestrial object on Earth.
Doesn't behave
Okay,
the
but if
same.
it
as-
So it
exists
sounded like-
somewhere, surely you must be able to, in some way, find its position.
It sounds like, Nez, it sounds like you really want to make a claim about something. So why don't you just do it?
Yeah, go for it, Mez.
No, I'm asking a question.
I've answered it
I'm asking the
twice.
same question you're
Well,
asking.
hold on. Everyone else chill.
Let's try
Everyone else chill.
to make a distance.
Oh my god. I've answered you twice. No, you can't measure its height. Do you understand that? And why? If not, I'll go through it again with you, Mez, if you're slow.
Well, yeah, if the Earth's flat, I get what you're saying.
That's not what I said.
So what is it? Is it magical?
That's not what I said. So you're slow. Did you not understand what I said?
Yeah, if you measure its height using elevation angles.
No, you can't measure
When
its
it's
height
on
using
the
elevation angles, and I explained why.
Yeah, if you
so
try
you just don't
to.
understand. You're just too
If
slow.
you try to.
Now you're talking through me. I'll remove you if you do it again. One more chance to shut your mouth while I talk. Okay, bye-bye, wanker.
All right.
No,
That's
unlike
bye-bye.
Mez, who is incapable of listening, the elevation angle does not change as you raise in elevation. That's to say, as you go up in height, the angle does not change. Now, if it was a physical item with a physical location that you could measure, it would decrease in angle as you raised in height. If you're looking at a distant tree and you raise in altitude, the angle to the tree reduces as you increase your elevation. The stars do not do that, and neither does the sun. Ergo, you cannot measure its height. Now, bull-believing idiots will come along and laugh at me and talk through me while I explain why you cannot acquire the height. Now, if you're a baller, you both have a height at a fixed value based on Christian Huygens and Keplerian orbital motion, and simultaneously have an infinite distance when applying it to the celestial sphere when measuring angles from hell. So you guys on the ball side have two different heights that are incongruent with one another. Me, I point out that based on the way it is measured, you cannot ascribe a height. Now, I've explained that 3 times. That's why he's been removed, because instead of listening, he said, you said you can't measure the height. No, you can't alter the angle with elevation. Those are two very different things. You're not trying to measure height. You're not getting a tape measure up to it. But laugh at me while I'm trying to explain that to you for the 3rd time, and I'll just remove you. Not gonna...
That's the best thing to do.
Don't laugh at me, prick.
We went through this a while
He's
ago.
gone
If they
anyway.
don't obey the...
He left.
We've
I
spent
have
10 years studying this stuff.
a diagram in the main text chat that just goes over exactly what Nathan was saying about how your height doesn't change if somebody wants to grab it. it's rudimentary, but it illustrates the point very clearly.
It also illustrates how rude ballers are. It's like, that guy wasn't here to actually discuss things with us. He was here to laugh while I explained something for the third time that he hadn't comprehended. What with his basic education that he got for free.
Well, Nathan, it's glaring. It's a glaring contradiction to them, and it's painful to them when they hear something like that, like, because they have a distance, right? Contradictory because it's infinite, but then they give you 93 million miles or whatever. But we went over this a long time ago, how the celestial bodies do not obey the geometry that terrestrial things have on Earth. It's obvious.
Even if you did a quick search, transits of Venus, astronomers used the time it took Venus to cross the face of the sun as seen from two widely separated points on Earth. That's a distance across the surface level. This allowed them to use triangulation to calculate the distance to Venus. So it's telling you what they're doing anyway. I mean, that's the rhetoric. It's telling you the truth. It's triangulation. It's 2 points on Earth, the distance between them, horizontal. And then they do a calculation after the measurement, as usual.
Yeah, but you need a measurement first. So how did they do the calculation if they don't have an exact measurement? If they don't line up, you got to throw the calculations out.
Well, I mean, you just take your elevation angle to Venus. I forgot all about that talking point because I haven't heard of Glober State in a while. I used to love it because I used to get so outraged how they would just assume the size of Venus and not even realize all the elevation angles they have to take before that.
Well, it's not exactly an assumption. It's a bit of a long word, a superimposition of Earth's radius onto Venus. So Anthony Riley was sat on that little nugget of information for about a year, waiting for some baller to come in and just bring it up, so he could quote the ingenious assumption, end quote, made by Christian Huygens, when he just arbitrarily ascribed Earth's radius to Venus. Now, there's no justifiable reason to do it further to the application after you've derived orbital motion from flat Earth measurements in the first place. It's just another layer upon layer of bullshit that Anthony Riley knew that it was described in the story of Huygens as an, quote, ingenious assumption. Well, okay, so he assumed Venus had the same size as Earth. Anthony Riley just never mentioned that assumption was based on a flat Earth measurement when deriving radial values. At the time, we were on the vibe of getting people like Mick West to concede how they were assuming Earth had a radius to begin with. That is to say, begging the question of sphericity to begin with a radius value that's already in place. Now, 5 years, 6, 7 years later, we're pointing out that no, it's not an assumption. It's a measurement of Earth as a flat plane that gets you to your radial value to superimpose onto Venus and then scale the orbital motions of Kepler.
I was going to say, is that the ingenious assumption? But you cleared it up.
The ingenious assumption is that Venus has the same radius as Earth in a heliocentric Keplerian worldview. That's the ingenious assumption.
But
so he
Nathan,
just looked
I
at
posted
Venus.
I don't know if it's real photo about the history of the distance to the sun. It's written that Kepler was thinking that it's 13 million miles away, not 93.
Yeah, well, he didn't know how to scale it. He's got no reason to give a value at all. There's no justifiable reason for Kepler to ascribe distance because he cannot scale it with anything. You need the, quote, ingenious assumption offered up later by Huygens to do that. Without that, you don't have anything to scale it with.
Yeah, how did he have the 13 million in the first place? I mean, yeah, absolutely. Pure assumptions going on there.
Well, it's changed many times.
By the way.
Over the years. I remember Jeranism covering this, again, 10 years ago, pointing out all the various different values that all the different astronomers had just guessed. And it changes. Sometimes it's further, sometimes it's closer. And all of those assumed values, it never was pointed out by Jaron that in order to derive the initial radial value of Earth as a sphere, you need to measure it flat, like this measurement on screen now. If the light was Polaris and you back away from it, the angle to it will decrease. Well, that's your latitude grid. Well, that's what you end up with getting the radius from. If you use Polaris at its minimum, that's the equatorial minimal value, which is also superimposed onto the inference that you've got an outside edge of a sphere with that same value, based on the minimum elevation angle measurement of a flat Earth using Polaris.
Something's not making sense. So he just looked at Venus and said, well, if Venus is the same size as Earth, let me go to work now. There's got to be something else to it.
Well, no, you need something to scale it with. And if you've got something that's got enough layers on top of your assumption, you can get away with it. So in the case of the transit of Venus, most laymen won't even know what that means. They won't know that the transit of Venus is just one light moving in front of another. If you describe it as an occultation, again, you go, what's that mean? But most people are too embarrassed to say they don't know what a word means, let alone try and dive into how that is extrapolated, where he got the original radius value to superimpose in the first instance. Where was that measured? Nobody's going to ask those questions. Most people aren't going to realise that's a question that should even be asked. You're like, this is a very smart man then. Huygens is a very smart man. He knows. Therefore, I don't need to dedicate any of my little brain to it. It's already been done.
So you can't get the distance or size of any of these lights in the sky.
No.
Not possible.
So then why day after day are teachers teaching this in school, that Jupiter is so big and this and that and the other thing, and this is what Mars is and this is how big Mars is? Why are they getting away with that? Wouldn't you be upset?
Because most of the schools are run by the churches. And who came up with these heliocentric motions? The church. So it's a church-based education that most people receive. And it is in that church-based education that the church rhetoric of heliocentrism is passed down to the younger generation year on year. But it's because the churches run the schools, that's why. But nobody thinks about that when they go to their, in England, Church of England school. Nobody's giving it any thought. When you go to Our Lady of Compassion school in Ireland, you're not thinking, oh, right, this is a church-run school. You just think, oh, it's got a church name because it's connected to the church. So on Remembrance Sunday, we can go down and, give thanks and say our prayers. But you don't give it a second thought that the government that's being... or that's supplying the funding to the school is ultimately led by and governed by church rhetoric. That's what heliocentrism is. Again, back to Jaron, him talking about him being amazed that his teachers in his Catholic or Jesuit education were telling him about heliocentrism without buy or leave. They didn't care. It was like, well, why would that be the case? Well, because they came up with it.
Well, it's a trust thing. Your kids come home, they learn how to read, they learn how to write, they're learning arithmetic. So, of course, you trust them. So if they're teaching them about a solar system, it's got to be legit because they learned how to read, write, and add. So it's got to be. Parents today have to start questioning what's going on. This has to come out. Because they're being taught a lie. They're being taught something that's not true. They're being taught 2 + 2 = 6.
Yes, Neil, they are. But that's why I homeschool. I got so many nice comments on my video that I made. So I did a school report video, as much as that sounds weird considering we homeschool or home educate. I get told off by other people in the home education field when I say, yeah, we homeschool our kids. They're like, it's not homeschool, it's home education. Like, get lost. It's just homeschool.
Yeah, but you still have to, but okay, how can I phrase this? Is it part of your curriculum to teach them about the solar system and where we are as Earth being the third planet from the sun?
Yeah,
Don't they have to learn those things?
Yes and no. So it will occasionally come up on the material that they're provided with. So they'll be in front of their iPads and they'll be doing Kumon or whatever, some education source material that they're working on. And it will mention something heliocentric. And normally I'll start tutting and I'll explain it to them and then explain why it's wrong. I used to just
That's
explain
the beauty
it
of home education.
when they were younger. I wouldn't explain how it was wrong. I would just give them the standard fare rhetoric of heliocentrism. And as the older one got older, she started asking more and more questions. Well, you say something else on your show, Daddy. I'm like, yes, but if I don't teach you third rock from the sun, heliocentrism, Keplerian motion, if I don't teach you this stuff, it will be alien to you when someone else brings it up. And you need to know what it is to know to tacitly accept it so you can ignore it. Now, the fact that they, my eldest one especially, know better wouldn't be very useful if they were faced with a heliocentric concept that they were completely unfamiliar with. Suddenly they'd be asking some random kid in one class about that random aspect of heliocentrism. Now, I want them to know what it is, and I want them to know that it's from the Roman Catholic Church and it's part of the Roman Catholic religion. When they understand that, I can teach it them in the same way I teach other religions. Or not me, my wife tends to dip into Sikhs and Hindus and all the other religions. We often teach them. So she was teaching them about Halloween, and I had a term that I'd never heard while she was teaching them. She was saying it was souring or something like that for Halloween. I'm like, what's that? She's like, well, that's the origins of Halloween. I'm like, is it? So I went and looked it up, and sure enough, she's teaching them something I've never even heard of. So I'm like, wow, the origins of Halloween are a very different affair to what I previously understood them to be. I just thought it was All Hallows Eve and, you know, the slight alteration to the name, and it's witches and witchcraft and Day of the Dead, and that's about it, right? Well, no, there's a lot more to it that I had never even appreciated. And I am in no doubt no one gets taught this stuff in schools, but when it comes to these various different religious festivals, so Diwali, you know, my wife goes out of her way to make sure that they are acutely aware of what it is. So when Indian neighbours go out for Halloween, they're talking to each other about what's going on for them, Diwali, and what's going on for us, Halloween. And my kids are talking to their kids on a level that they can understand both religious aspects of their lives without having to talk past each other. Now, don't get me wrong, the younger kids didn't really understand what Halloween was. These are Indian kids. And they just didn't get it. But they knew that they were out getting sweets. You know what I mean?
So where did it stem from? The Druids? Because it sounds like you're coming from somewhere else.
I couldn't tell you. I watched one video on it, Neil, because my wife had asked me to get the pronunciation correct. So I went and dug a video out, and then after watching 45 minutes of it, the pronunciation was said right at the end of the video, which I then called her in for. And I'm like, here you go, here's how you say it. But I mean, I couldn't remember. It's like most things I study, if I'm genuinely interested in them, I'll need to watch things 10 times before I could, give it even the slightest chance of repeating that information back in a coherent way. Having watched something once, I couldn't tell you. I can't even pronounce the name of it. And it was a week ago, so, you know. Someone from the chat will tell us, but the origins...
Sam Hine or something. It's a Celtic festival. Is that what you're saying? Is that the word you're looking for? SAMHAIN?
You're thinking of Salad, and you're thinking of Sam Hain. I think they're separate.
Something like that.
So this is different than the information your wife gave. I'd like to find out about that.
Well, I was intrigued, but for the fact that I hadn't heard it before. So, I probably wouldn't have been, when she goes through Diwali each year, I'm less interested each year she goes through it because, having been brought up in Birmingham, I was acutely familiar with the Festival of Light and what it was and what it meant to that particular group of people. But when my wife's teaching it to my kids, obviously I haven't got a great deal of interest in it, the lesson that is. But when you hear something that you haven't heard before, you're like, what's that? I've never heard of that. And she's taught them about Saturnalia and all of those sorts of things that have come up on the show. And then there's a cross-pollination with my kids' education that you just don't expect. I'm like, oh, wow, you're covering that. I covered that on my show.
Usually as well, Halloween, it falls on what they call a cross-quarter day. It's the halfway point between the equinox and the solstice.
Not exactly. So it's, in this instance, it was about 4 days prior. But yes, you're right. It is the halfway between the solstice and the, what's it called? The equinox.
Equinox.
Yeah. So it's a midpoint. Yes, exactly. Those were the sorts of things in this video. And that's where it typically fell to celebrate. There's like it was describing it as like a transition. So you've got, what are they called? Like cherubs, but they're like naughty cherubs that would come and steal your baby and replace it with a changeling. And then people would want to cast out the demons in their babies because they thought that they'd been replaced with changelings. And a lot of this was ridicule for disabled kids, basically. It was quite harsh listening to this stuff in terms of how barbaric people were back in the day with their own kids. You're like, wow. Anyway, very unpleasant discussion that we're having.
Back to, like, you know, you get
system.
Just saying, you get like you like some mezzies coming in, you know, just come in and say, you know, what I was saying the other day. Someone was saying, oh, when we were saying the debate's over, and well, the only people that come in now is just to sort of disturb it and cause chaos. If Mez has got something to say useful, sure, we'll all listen. If you know, if he doesn't stop interrupting and ad hominem attacking everybody, you know, if he's got some sort of, you know, wants to tell us something about how he feels the distance to the sun is measured, well, lay it down on the table. But even if you use your own rhetoric, you know, like I've just pointed out earlier, it's describing the distance between 2 points on the surface of Earth, and then triangulation's used. Yeah, there's a lot of assumptions going on, but that, you know, you've got 2 points on the surface of Earth and triangulation.
Yeah, I mean,
Can't get away from that.
That guy was asking us why we wouldn't measure the height of a sun or star. It's like, well, when we've gone through how you cannot measure a height of a star, when you get the guy laughing in response in the middle of a sentence, you're like, I don't want to talk to this person. Why should I get annoyed with somebody who's clearly not here to extend any sort of respect? He's laughing at us. Like, get lost. You're not demonstrating a respectful nature. So why would I want to talk to you?
You shouldn't. You did the right
he's
thing.
clearly. Sorry, he's clearly. Sorry to cut you off there. No, he's clearly of the opinion that a measurement to the sun can be made. You see, that's why he laughed. His whole demeanour was of that you don't know what you're talking about because we've measured the distance to the sun. That was his attitude.
Yeah, with elevation angles. It's one of the things I had Red Rhetoric over a barrel with recently. So Red Rhetoric was asserting that you can take triangulation into account when utilising horizontal distance measurements for angles to the sun and moon. To then infer that the baseline that you've just used for your trig is bent? No, you're just measuring Earth flat. But they want to, as you put it one day, whistle past things like the flat Earth prerequisite horizontal distance measurement and elevation angle from a baseline that's flat to suggest that the baseline's curved after you've acquired your little number with a degree symbol after it off a flat Earth. As long as nobody mentions that you've got that little number with a degree symbol off a flat Earth, you can carry on whistling past the flat Earth prerequisite elevation angle measurement and start inferring sphericity and distance based on those angles. Now, in 2025, we go, you're measuring Earth flat. It's the first thing you did. You're using a horizontal distance measurement in miles. So you've measured Earth flat twice. Do you think I care what you do with a calculation using 2 flat Earth measurements? No, you've got 2 flat Earth measurements. It's the end of the discussion. So back to the original point. Is there a debate? No. Everybody's measuring Earth flat.
Even if they prove that 93 million miles away and like convince you, like, look, this is really 93 million miles, that doesn't change the the surface, unfortunately.
You can't get to that distance without the surface being measured flat, I'm afraid, Sasha. So
yeah,
two
I know,
things are
but
linked
it's
at
like
the
a
hip.
story about that flat earthers saying that you cannot measure, but we will prove them that we can measure. And if they can prove that they can measure, that means Earth is a sphere. It's the same with every argument. If I prove them that gravity exists, Earth will be sphere. If I prove them, but I cannot prove them that surface is curving, only that thing. I can prove all other things, and Earth is a sphere. I only cannot prove that Earth is, spherical, but I can prove that gravity exists. I can prove that gradient exists. I can prove that refraction exists. I can prove. Do you understand?
Yeah, they can offer up a multitude of apologies. And when deriving their sphericity, it's like on screen now. You're measuring a flat equatorial plane with flat directionality, north, south, east, and west, for a Polaris angle that you can then infer is the actual surface the angle was measured through.
I will claim now something. Listen this carefully. But people that humans cannot measure this radius. It's impossible. Can you get it? It's impossible for human being to measure this radius of 3,959 miles. To have that sphere and to measure radius, or you need to cut the half of the sphere and to measure distance, I don't know how, or to measure every 360 degrees, that means that's 69 miles, what they're saying, in every direction, every 10 miles, 5 miles, every time. And it must drop in every time, across the mountain. It's impossible to measure that in reality.
Sure. And what you're saying is the extrapolation of 1 degree for every 60 nautical miles, that's a degree drop of Polaris with respect to the horizon as you back away from it, translatable as 69 statute or 60 nautical miles for the distance travelled for the 1 degree drop. Well, is that proven? I don't care. It's not my measurement. I haven't measured it, nor do I need to. What I need to do is point out that when measuring it to create a ball for you to believe in, not you, Sasha, but anybody who wants to believe in a ball, they require Earth be measured flat to extrapolate out that distance. So if they say, well, it's not really 60 nautical miles, it's 59, I don't care. You've derived it from a flat Earth angle. It doesn't bother me how you get there, but it's not my measurement. So when somebody comes along like earlier, well, how do you measure the height? I don't know. I'm not measuring height of stars, nor would I want to. But when we measure the stars, we measure Earth flat to achieve that. That's what I will lean into, because without that rhetoric they use, they have no rhetoric to believe in. And what are they using? Flat Earth measurements. They are using them. I'm not. I'm not depending on maps being accurate. I haven't made any maps. Now, is the Ordnance Survey map accurate? I mean, I have used those maps. I've been orienteering. But does that mean that I distrust the map because it's flat and used with horizontal distances and scales? Nah, it definitely works. But I haven't made the map. I do know that the Ordnance Survey is made with flat Earth linear horizontal measurements, though. That's just a fact.
Yeah, the Ordnance Survey map is a really, really good map, though. It's accurate. I used to use it a lot in the military, in the Army Cadets. We used it a lot. Very good maps.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's a shill out there. There is a shill out there that states that if you aim if you fire a signal to the sun and you wait, 16 minutes, because it's 8 minutes to get there, 8 minutes to get back, they said, you're measuring the distance to the sun.
The sun's alleged to be a black body. You know what a black body is?
Yeah.
What's a black body?
Well, it's just a black body. It's just a black hole, isn't it? That's what I thought it was.
In terms of the signal that would reach it, it wouldn't reflect off it. No, it would just absorb all signals.
Right,
Yes.
it just goes straight through, wouldn't it?
Right, so to assert that you've got a bounce off it is to deny their rhetoric that it's a black body.
Right.
So no.
That's why I said to him it's impossible.
Yeah, I mean, even if they assert that they can do it, it's like, well, how are you going to get a reflection off a black body? That's their rhetoric, not mine.
Yeah, that's another story they told us. I like how you do it, Nathan. You stop it right there. I don't care what it is. You're using a flat plane, and this is a flat Earth debate. So right there, flat Earth, we're not skipping past it anymore. You use the flat Earth for that. Game over.
Yeah, but what they want to do is flip the burden. Well, how do you measure it then? How do you suggest we get a height then? Like the guy did when I kicked him out. Like, I'm not suggesting that I want to or would or can acquire a height. I don't care that the distance is linear and flat on a map. I don't care. Like, literally, I couldn't give a crap. But it is measured that way, regardless of whether or not I want to utilise it. It is utilised, the ground, flat, in that way, if you want to use a map. Oh, well, show me an accurate map. No. Well, you've just said that the maps are flat. They are functionally used with a flat plane of reference and horizontal distance. Well, where's the accurate map of the world? I don't know. Why are you asking me that? Well, because you're telling us it's flat. No, I'm pointing out an absolute stone cold fact when it comes to the utilisation of any map in terms of its practical application. That doesn't mean I'm suddenly the arbiter of cartography. It doesn't mean that. But they want to flip the burden and make me into some guru where I've suddenly got all the answers. And if I don't provide them, they laugh at me. That's why you get kicked out. Like, just because I point out how a map is being utilised and created and measured off a flat plane doesn't make me a cartographer. It just means I'm pointing out the obvious. The facts in terms of how maps are used. Does that mean I've suddenly got to produce a world map? No, it does not. Does it mean that I'm going to accept... Go ahead, Neil.
No, go ahead, finish up.
Does it mean that I'm going to accept being mocked and ridiculed and laughed at when I won't give you the answer that you desire after pointing out that we cannot acquire heights of stars? All right, well, how would you do it then? Well, I'm not suggesting I would. Oh, get lost. You're just here as a wind-up merchant.
What I noticed in chat, hold on, the other day, they asked you these questions because they want to compare it to their globe model, right? Yes. So that's all these questions are, because they think they have the answers. Well, how does it work on a flat Earth? Oh, so you really want to know how it works because you're questioning your heliocentric system? That's really what it is.
Well, model. Yeah, their model that doesn't exist, by the way. The model that doesn't exist in reality. In actuality, it does not exist at all. Yeah, that model. You know, and he fell foul for his own model in the end, because he's thinking his model works. He thinks his model exists. I mean, come on.
Well, as I said earlier,
that's why he got kicked out.
Well, there's an incongruence between their model and their assertion that there's an infinite distance to the stars when they take a angle measured off a flat plane and superimpose it into hell. On this diagram on screen now, you've got the angle terminating in hell. Well, what does that mean for the distances to the angle measurements of any star? It means that for a heliocentrist, you must, in this circumstance, when putting the stars into practical application for navigation, at an infinite distance. But simultaneously, we've got a 93 million mile sun, and we can give an AU value to all of the different scaled stars with Huygens and Kepler. But if we're going to navigate with them, they're just considered infinite. It's like, so make up your mind. Is it 93 million miles to the sun, or is it an infinite distance to the sun? Oh, right. It will be an infinite distance if we're projecting it onto the flat Earth, equatorial or extended plane to a dome around you that is used from hell to measure an angle from a flat plane. That's what you've actually got to contend with if you want to believe you're on a ball. The incongruence of having not only a distance that's been scaled through an assumption that's based on a flat Earth measurement, but simultaneously having an infinite distance so it can work on this celestial sphere. Shout out to Goldie for the super chat. Says, hello from Flat Florida.
Like Neil said, though, and even Sensual give it to Mez, saying, it sounds like you've got a claim to put on the table. Make your claim. He said, no, I'm just asking questions. That's what he was doing, asking questions. Got no claim, no evidence of anything. He's just there to ask questions about how would you do this? How does that work?
Sarcasm as well. There was a little sarcasm in his voice, yeah? In his position. There was a little sarcasm there that I detected as well.
Pardon me, you said on the celestial sphere. That's technically incorrect.
Did I? Feel free to correct me.
In and out. That's all they got. They don't have on.
Oh, right. On is like a flat Earth prerequisite, isn't it?
Well, we can't say on either? Well, this is news to me.
Not
in
on
and out,
the celestial sphere.
Sorry, John, you get.
Yeah, you can't say on the celestial sphere. Your measurements are taken from
Oh, okay.
the plane of reference.
What's wrong with you, Nathan?
It's linguistically challenged. My problem. I'm afflicted. What do you want? Right, I've got a couple of videos that we're going to cover, although one will be covered tomorrow, one will be covered today. And they've both been provided by OneDeck. Just share the
Well
screen.
done, OneDeck.
Give it you in the Hangout so I can actually present it to the audience. Here we go. You guys see that okay?
In G+, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so this is Tyree Outdoor Experience LLC. Can't quite read it, it's very small. Anyway, I'm going to put a link to this dude's YouTube channel, which isn't particularly big. He got 500 subscribers. Nevertheless, please give this guy a bit of love. This is another example of us not wanting to deal with the anti-flat earth rhetoric from our own pond. That's to say, your Simon Dans and your Daves are in the same pond as us. This is just a normal dude talking about compass. So let's hear what he's got to say.
So today I'm going to show you how to hold a compass. Now, holding a compass seems like an easy thing to do, but it is so difficult, or so people think.
Well, I mean, is a compass globe-shaped? Anybody?
Although it's, I think they call the flat base compass, most of them, I think.
Well, that's
Rambo had on the knife that spherical one.
Yeah.
Big engine.
Sorry, so you're using a flat map, and the compass is going to be used horizontally, flat. Come on, no globe there.
Because I constantly see people holding them incorrectly, giving them poor results.
How do you hold a compass incorrectly? I mean, is it like you've got the compass and you're like, how do I hold this again? You stick it on your head.
Maybe they hold it flat instead
To
of
hold a
vertically.
compass properly, first you need to hold your hand out with your palm up, parallel to the ground.
Come again? Parallel to the
Ouch.
ground? Oh, those are one of those words that you can't use on a ball, eh? OneDeck.
I think that's worth a J, that one.
Them poor results. To hold a compass properly, first you need to hold your hand out with your palm up, parallel to the ground.
There's up, flat earth prerequisite, and parallel, flat earth prerequisite. So that's two flat earth prerequisites that you can't have unless earth is being measured flat and utilized with a parallel to the ground. So that would mean the ground can run parallel to this flat tool that you're going to hold out flat.
Don't tip it forward or backwards.
There's more words that you can't use on a ball.
Make it as flat and parallel to the ground as possible.
But we're going to need a parallel ground for it to be parallel with and hold it as flat as possible with respect to then. Yeah, we do. Because directionality, that's north, south, east and west, are flat earth only directions. You can't have flat, parallel, north, south, east or west if you're on a ball. You can only use this tool for directionality. Flat. That's north. That's south. That's east. That's west. Notice I didn't go, that's north and that's south, because it isn't. Yeah, you're not holding a compass parallel if you're doing that. That's when you're holding it wrong.
If
Yeah,
it's
I love this because...
Yeah,
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
John, go on. It's okay,
No,
go on,
you
mate.
go ahead, OneDeck. No, go ahead.
I just said I love this for the simplicity. You know, it's just a quick, some dude navigating. You navigate like Nathan just pointed out, and we point it out all the time. You know, you're going to need a flat Earth for a compass to work, and you get laughed at. And here's a guy navigating, trying to find his way around the Earth. He's telling you you've got to have it parallel, you've got to have your hand flat. Yeah, this is how it works. This is how you find your way around Earth. It's not mentioning any curvature issues.
I was going to say that I would need to have a slightly curved compass with a slightly curved needle, right? And then my hand would be curvail, not parallel, but curvail to the surface.
I hate to do this to you, Jin. You've just made that word up. There is no curvail.
I know.
That was very high pitched. You know you're bullshitting us, do you, Jin? Get out.
Up, parallel to the ground. Don't tip it forward or backwards. Make it as flat and parallel to the ground as possible.
Yeah, so we're going to need a flat ground to be parallel with then. Yeah, like the maps, like the compass itself.
If it's twisted like this, the needle doesn't tend to work as well.
So if it's in any way other than parallel and flat, it doesn't work correctly. Really? That's fascinating. So we're going to need a flat Earth for it to work correctly then. Yeah, that's because north, south, east and west are flat directions.
So hold it parallel to the ground.
Gotcha. Parallel to the flat ground, as flat as possible, when referencing the flat ground for the flat directions in two-dimensional terminology that is north, south, east and west. Gotcha. Flat, parallel, gotcha.
Next step is you want to face it forward.
Forward? Not in or out with respect to a ball that you're in the centre of hell? Just forward, like a flat two-dimensional directionality?
On every compass, there is a direction of travel arrow, and on this compass, you can see it here. It points the direction that you intend to travel.
So horizontally. So to travel in a certain direction, north, south, east or west, flat, planar direction, you're going to have a direction of travel that's horizontal then? Yeah, you will, yeah. That's right, yeah. All travel, all mapping, all cartography is flat.
So I always want that direction of arrow, the direction of travel arrow, pointing in my intended direction, okay? I always want that direction of arrow, the direction of travel arrow, pointing in
a flat Earth only prerequisite direction horizontally, a bit like I pointed earlier when I pointed that way, yeah? That's not pointing north to the top of a ball, south to the bottom of a ball, is it? No, that's not how directions work, yeah? Flat Earth only. Like we always measure Earth without exception. This is no exception. That away is horizontal. That away is flat. That away is how we measure Earth when travelling over the surface. Planar, two-dimensional, flat. Like on your compass.
In my intended direction, okay? I'm not pointing it like this. I'm not holding my compass because lots of people, they'll twist and turn their compass until their magnetic needle is pointing forward. Now what that does is that is always going to point your compass north, and you're always going to be walking north.
So north is always horizontally then? It's always an orientation with respect to a plane. It's never pointing up or down, and if you're twisting it and tilting it, it's wrong. Yeah, we know. Earth is measured and navigated flat.
Well, what if you don't want to go north? So never, ever, ever follow the magnetic needle, follow the direction of arrow, which means holding it so that it is always pointed perpendicular to your body.
There's another word that you can't use if you're on a ball. You don't have perpendicularity on a ball. You only have perpendicular to a flat plane of reference when holding this tool flat and level, as parallel as possible. Perpendicular, as he would describe.
And forward, as if that is where you plan on walking, okay?
You're certainly right, it's okay, mate. You're talking about how Earth gets navigated flat with a compass, because that's what a compass is, and that's how Earth gets navigated. There are no exceptions. All roads lead to a flat Earth. This is just one of them, directionality.
The next step is as you move around in the wilderness, you need to fix that compass in place, okay? Have you ever seen those kids? When I grew up in the 1980s, we played Nintendo, and there was a kid on my block.
Anybody heard of this Nintendo? I don't know what he's talking about.
We said that he had Nintendo arms.
No, I never heard of it.
Why? Because when he played Mario Kart, he would hold his controller, and with every jump, his body would jump.
Yeah, that makes the car jump higher. What kind of an idiot? Don't you know how a controller works?
But what he's going through this jargon, what he's saying is once you've got it, your hands flat and it's parallel to the earth that you're navigating, and you've got your direction straight ahead horizontally in north, south, east or west, you must it's good to remain fixed in that position so that you'll get to the point where you want to go, the place where you're heading. Yeah, that's what he's trying to say. So yeah, it will be held parallel to the ground, fixed horizontally into whichever direction you choose to go.
And jump. And when he turned, he would twist and turn with the controller, always pointed forward. Now that's what I want to see when holding a compass. I want you to hold that compass, and every time you jump over an obstacle, haha, just kidding. That's Nintendo. But every time you move around in the forest, your compass is parallel to the ground, pointing forward, and it's fixed. See how when I turn my body, the compass turns with me, okay? I never will move the compass and keep my body in place. Why? Because that that direction of travel arrow must always be pointing forward. So, as I am doing this, I am moving my body like this, and this is fixed in place. So that is how to properly hold a compass.
Oh, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Let's share this video with my live audience. Please let the chappie know. He didn't give his name, so I don't know what to tell you in terms of go and say hello to... should we just make up a name? We're going to call him Tyrone. Go and tell Tyrone Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment that doesn't immediately get removed from the YouTube algorithm.
I think you should call him Mario.
We can call him Luigi. We can call him whatever we like. We're just going to give this dude a name. He didn't give himself a name at the beginning, did he? I didn't miss that. Let's see if it says.
No.
Doesn't seem to mention what his name is. Tyrone.
It's short and sweet, wasn't it? But it's, them keywords he's talking about when you're navigating. It's them keywords we keep harping on about, and people say we're wrong, and no compasses only work on a globe.
To do,
there you go.
But it is so difficult, or so people think, because I constantly see people holding them incorrectly, giving them poor results. To hold a compass properly, first, you need to hold your hand out with your palm up, parallel to the ground.
I couldn't resist.
Does this little caption say hold hand flat in front?
Yes. Yeah, you're going to need a flat earth for these prerequisites that you can't use if you're a baller. You don't get to use these words. Sorry, One Deck, I interrupted you with my video, your video.
It's all right, though. I was just saying it's short and sweet, but get straight to the point. You're navigating the land and using parallel, horizontal, fixed. The terminology we use when we're explaining these things to people who tell us compasses only work on a globe Earth, when obviously not.
Cool. Well, the hour is up. I'm going to make a thumbnail over the next minutes. Hopefully you'll chat a little bit while we're still live.
Yeah, especially if you tip that compass up and down and move your body and all that. You can't get your reading. You won't be going in the right direction, and your compass won't work because the needle will be scraping the body of the compass, won't it now? Yeah. Got to keep it horizontal, haven't you? Flat.
Yes.
Horizontal. Yeah. Yeah, man.
It's almost as if you don't orient it with respect to the plane of reference, it won't work properly.
Yeah, or to put it another way, a compass only works on a flat Earth.
That's it. That is it. It's a flat Earth tool. That's what it is.
Yes, absolutely, Jin. It's a flat Earth tool.
Yeah, much the same as a sextant, a flat Earth tool.
Yep. Designed that way.
Yep, designed for the flat Earth. Exactly, not a globe. Not a globe. It was never designed with a globe in mind at all. Doesn't make any sense.
Well, now, given that you have this tool that requires a plane of reference to operate, and you're measuring magnetic field lines to establish north, why would you need a story about a molten iron core to give Earth a magnetic field?
Great point. You just wouldn't, would you now? Another story they told us.
It's not the ground you're measuring anyway.
Yeah, it is. He's literally measuring the ground so he can navigate it, so he doesn't die when lost.
And you're covering distance on that flat Earth as well, horizontal plane.
I mean, we've seen the stories, right? Failure to understand and comprehend these things mean you end up with the Blair Witch chasing you while you go around in circles.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that. You'd end up in a corner. Nobody puts baby in the corner.
Yeah. Yeah. I fell in love with the Ordnance Survey maps when it was when I could see the mountains that I was going to climb over, and you see the series of lines and each meter, going up. And I thought, wow, this map is accurate. Look at this map, And then you get to the lake you're meant to get to. Yeah. The Ordnance Survey maps, British ones, very good indeed.
Yeah. And the heights they describe on them are with respect to sea level.
Yeah.
Yeah. A flat Earth planar system utilising elevations with respect to an overall averaged level from the sea. And how high you are above or below with respect to that level. AKA your height above sea level.
Yeah.
Do you mean mean sea level then?
Say again?
I'm saying, do you mean mean sea level?
Mean sea level, indeed. Nathan Oakley is ace. He's my favourite. Subscribe and become a member today to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate, says Crockett. Thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Anything else anybody wants to add other than how fantastic an ace? I mean, if you want to add that as well, that's great.
How else would they get the heights, Nathan? Of course they're getting it from mean sea level. Do you know any other way to get it?
Well, that is just how it is. That's how your height's described. If you look up your height in respect to anything else on the surface of Earth, it's described from sea level. If you draw an elevation profile in Google Earth, it will show you a deviation with respect to the surface level and how high or low you are with respect to that average. That's how it is measured. Again, if someone was to come along and go, well, how would you measure it on a globe? I'd be like, I don't care, I'm not measuring it. It just is measured flat.
How did you know I was going there? That was my next question.
Detect it. Come in, Neil. I'm one for seeing patterns. Anything else? Any more for any more? No? With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow.
Yeah. Even though the guy narrating the video is a glober.
Doesn't matter. He has to use Earth flat.
How do you know that? You don't know he's a glober.
But even still, he's using the Earth flat.
Jin, just one sec. He's not a glober. He's a normie. He's just a guy. I said this on Friday's show.
Okay, he's a normie.
He's just a normie, right? Normies don't care that we measure Earth flat. It doesn't cause cognitive pain when they describe holding your hand out flat in front of you, parallel with the surface of Earth. You're not going to have cognitive pain from describing that. That's just how Earth is measured. Now, most people are happy to stay consistent with the Earth measurements when they describe the Earth measurements. It's only globers, as you put it, or anti-flat earthers that suddenly have an issue. That say, well, it's only because it's a really big ball that we can hold the compass parallel with the curved surface. But that's cognitively dissonant, isn't it? That's incongruent with the two different positions that you must hold simultaneously, the very definition of cognitive dissonance. But that's only true for globers. This guy's not that. This guy's just a normie.
Yeah, he's a normie who thinks he lives on a ball earth.
Exactly. A normal person today, you ask any normal person, they'll tell you they live on a globe. So what's wrong with calling them a globe? And when you tell them it's flat, you see how fast they turn to globers.
Yes. I'm not liking the critique in what I say, because I'm going to say what I say again. He's a glober because he believes he lives on a globe. Sorry, Nathan, that's how it is. He's a normie, yes. Normal people think they live on a globe. Thank you.
Correct.
Yeah.
What we were saying is, no matter what, they use Earth flat.
Yeah.
You don't have to even identify him. When people use the equipment that they use, like compasses or sextants, right? They're going to be needing to use a flat Earth. They can't do it any other way, and it's because we live on a flat Earth.
Yeah. I've heard pilots say that the reason they're able to fly around the globe is because gravity is literally pulling the nose of the plane round, even though they're flying horizontal. There you are. Pilots say that.
But it isn't. We can show that with pitch data. The nose of the plane is pitch up a couple of degrees with respect to the horizontal plane of reference being measured.
Right. Exactly.
Jen, I was speaking to a guy who was going through the whole course to become a pilot, and he was doing contracting work on the side to make money. And it was one of the shows that was on. He was giving me a ride to the train, and Brian was breaking down the pitch data and lift effect. He understood it perfectly. Before that, he used to contend with me all the time. Gas pressure allocation, he would start an argument with me back and forth, back and forth. Since that day, not a word. He comprehended it and understood it.
Well done. Excellent. Excellent. Talking about having a second job, the pilots, today's news from America, because of their government shutting down and not doing any work, pilots themselves are finding it hard to make a living. They have to take a second income, second job, in other words, to stay alive, stay afloat. You understand? Pilots, aircraft pilots, passenger
Wait a second, the planes are not flying because the government shut down?
Yeah, something's wrong,
Yeah, at least so the Lamborghini doesn't pay itself, Gin. Bloody hell.
Wait a second, hold on. Are you talking about government, whereas the airports are shut down? I didn't hear that.
Well, the US, yeah, your government's not working in that, and apparently people can't afford to buy groceries and that. People are not traveling, pilots are not working, so they're not even getting paid.
Oh, okay. So it's not that they're grounded because of the shutdown. It's the results of the shutdown.
The results of the shutdown is forced pilots to get another job whilst things are at this situation.
Yeah, no matter who's in office, they all read from the same script. They're all on the same team, right? They do not care about the common man. And unless people decide that they're going to revolt, there's not going to be any change.
That's right. Absolutely. That's right. That's exactly what is needed.
When a pilot gets in their air curve and takes up, do they... I'm trying to think how you can describe it.
Did you say air curve?
Yeah, air curve and go up, or not out. It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. It is.
I took an air curve to Texas one time. And the thing is, it flew straight.
Yeah. I like that one. Air curve, not airline, but air curve. Passenger jets, air curvers.
25 years married today, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yeah, sorry,
50.
I forgot to say that. Happy anniversary to you. Yeah.
Thank you. Going for 50. Yeah. I'll only be 85.
Well done anyway. You've made this a good milestone, that one. 25, quarter of a century. Yeah.
You want to hear the this is what bothers me. This is why I hate having auto pay where people take their money and you're not aware of it. Somebody sent me a little something, said, take your wife out. Guess who got it? A bill collector.
Oh, yeah, that happens, doesn't it? Of course. It's
Like,
of course,
what?
Yeah.
What's going on? Did I lose connection?
Level
No,
Plane
no, you're
Observer
there.
got back in touch with me to thank me for sending audience members to his video.
Who?
Level Plane Observer, a flatty that is obviously
Oh.
getting limited audience participation for obvious reasons. Well, we sent people to his channel and he got back in touch and said, oh, I really appreciate it. Thank you. I'm like, yeah, well, you know, there's you, me, and a handful of others now, isn't there, that are just talking about Earth being measured flat.
I wanted to tell you that was the best thing you did, giving Mez the boot. Because if he is what Brian, the guy Brian said he is, that's the best thing to do. Just boot him.
Well, what's the Level Plane Observer? He usually covers what he calls the globe pantomime. But he's not adverse to the arguments presented here. He just has a different way. His content's just different to here. You know, you got to be different to make it.
Yeah, you just got to be straight, honest, and lay it down flat. Pun intended. Yeah, I thought we covered the distance to the sun pretty well. I did post that Decoding of the Heavens, the Solar Distance by J. Tolman Media. I posted it in the server, in the main text chat. So if anyone's interested, have a good look at that. Interesting. He estimates it to be about 5,000 miles off the
Yeah, but
Earth's
see, when people do that, they make themselves look just as silly as the heliocentrists saying 93 million miles away. Because there's no way to get the distance. Because we went over this. The celestials would not obey the same geometry that's being obeyed on Earth, like a high tower or the Empire State Building. No, Nathan explained it very well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course.
Do you know what infinite means mathematically?
There's no such
It's an
thing.
impossibility.
Infinite.
Undefined.
Finite means
just undefined.
Finite means there's a limited amount of something. Infinite means there's no limitation to it.
Yeah, forever.
Right, because once you give limitation to it, you've defined it.
Yeah, the kids are full of energy today. Wicked.
There's no such thing as infinite.
Yeah, that's true. How would we know? We haven't been there. We can't get there.
The only thing I describe infinite to is maybe God's wisdom.
Yeah, that would be fair enough. And perhaps the earth itself.
Well, it does say world without end in the Bible. It does say it quite a few times.
Yeah.
Now it'll be restructured at the appointed time, but it does say world without end.
Yeah. And then, you know, when they say, what do you know that moves continuously moving unless acted upon by another force? That would be the sun and the moon. They keep moving. They don't stop, do they?
Yeah, Jim, because gravity. Don't you know that? A gravitational pull. That's what it is.
honestly. Yeah. Gravity.
Push and pull will only be described with respect to a plane of reference as well.
Oh dear.
That's why, up and down, push, pull.
That's right. You got it. On their globe, it's in and out, and that doesn't happen.
Did you listen? Hey, Refracted, did you listen to yesterday's Uncut and After show on the re-up on Nathan's second channel yesterday?
I know I had a rough day yesterday. What was it?
It was when you came on and you were discussing the conversation you had with Danny Faulkner when Danny was claiming that he doesn't get any respect here or that he'll get shouted down or treated unfairly because one of his subscribers would like him very much to debate Nathan and would pay him a substantial amount of money. And this is what Danny's putting back to him. But we showed on that video that he was treated with the utmost respect. Even a panel member got told to shut up while he was spending 5 minutes coming up with an answer. All right? And then we got into a little bit about how Adam came in and crushed it. And you wanted to know how he crushed it. It was a good video.
And what time was this?
What's wrong with what?
No, what time was that? Because I didn't realize you was on a second show. Where?
No, that's when he plays. He's got him scheduled. He's got on his second channel. They come out like around my time, 3:00 in the afternoon. So the show comes on. It's one from, who knows? Nathan plays him months later. But you get to hear the Uncut and After show.
Right.
But Danny Faulkner did come off mute one day when he was sitting there because I think, what's his name? Mighty Mush said, would you like to say hello? And he never spoke at all. He used to just sit there and never say a word. But he finally spoke this one day.
Yeah, I remember Mighty Mush. He hasn't been around for a while, but yeah.
Yeah, because Nathan offended him.
Okay, yeah.
That's a shame. Most of them feel like they're going to get their heads bit off as soon as they speak. That's how they feel. They don't understand the reason that they're getting their heads bit off. They just, they state their fallacy, and because they get their heads chewed off for spitting a fallacy, they think that they're getting their heads chewed off just because they've spoken.
What was Mighty Mush's fallacy?
Mighty Mush didn't have a fallacy, did he?
I'm not talking about Mighty Mush. She's talking about Danny Faulkner.
Yeah. Mighty Mush doesn't commit fallacies. He's quite a nice guy.
That's not true with Danny Faulkner either. So Danny Faulkner came in, and I completely stepped off because John took up the reins. As he's here, I don't mind speaking on his behalf. But John took over, and I just stepped back. And when anybody interrupted in the long, protracted silences between each of them communicating with each other, not John responding to Danny, but when Danny was responding to John, there'd be between 30 and 90-second pauses between responses. I just let that happen. And when somebody tried to step in, I told them to shut up. So quite the contrary, I didn't bite Danny Faulkner's head off. Not at all.
That's what we just said. Did you miss the beginning, or are you just coming in?
Yeah, I did. I was actually getting coffee. Sorry.
I was telling John that show was on yesterday on your second channel, and we demonstrated how that is not the case. He was given the utmost respect. Well, I was even told to shut up, even though I didn't know it was Danny Faulkner when I came in. I just came barreling in, heard a guy taking 2 minutes to come up with an answer, and I said, any day now. And I was told, step off, have respect. He's a PhD. And then I kind of put it together who he was talking to. And I stood silent from that moment on. And when Adam came in, Adam didn't even know it was Danny Faulkner.
Yeah, I don't mind extending that respect, right? Call me old-fashioned, but I call a doctor because they've earned that level of respect through the study, through the dedication to their career. That to me warrants the respect that, you know, maybe others would say it doesn't justify that respect. I disagree. It's like, no, if you've earned a title, I will call you by that title. That's perfectly reasonable. And I even remember asking him at the end, I was like, what would you like me to call you? Because some people don't like being called by their title in a social setting, which this is to a degree. And he was like, just call me Danny. Now, if it had said, call me Dr. Faulkner, I'd have been, no worries, Dr. Faulkner, thank you for attending. He said, just call me Danny, so I did. But I'm asking out of respect because he's earned that respect. And I will extend it. Now, some tosser that's been to some public school that's laughing at me, I'll kick him out in a heartbeat. Because that guy earlier, Mez, he doesn't command any respect whatsoever, does he? Just a wanker.
Nope. Yeah, I always found that a problem too, that guys that spend the time in the education system, put the time in, and they don't get respected. I mean, people just, flat earthers just shit all over them. It's like, no, the guy's an educated man. He put his time in. At least give him some respect.
You can be respectful and destroy their worldview at the same time. You know what I mean?
Now you get flat earthers coming in and say, he spent his years in the indoctrination system. Whatever it is, the guy put his time in. There's a PhD on the wall. Respect it. I didn't do that.
Well, this year and last year, there was a guy called PhD Tony. He's Australian, very obnoxious. I called him out for being a PhD. He's very educated. He could be a PhD, but he's very condescending. Very condescending. He
That's different.
To all the flat earthers. You know what I call him? I say PhD means person having delusions, ladies and gentlemen. That's what that PhD stands for. For this guy, he's murdering the principle of flight. He can't prove his globe. He's wrong about 9/11. I just totally destroyed him. Called him out on every step of the way. Yeah. And then I said to him, you're not a PhD. You're just a person having delusions, Tony. And that was it.
He probably called for that, but Danny doesn't call for that. Now, he'll piss down your back and tell you it's raining, but he won't be disrespectful to you.
I mean, as much as Michael learns as he's a bit similar, isn't he? I mean, he comes on, he agrees that it's measured horizontal. Eratosthenes measured flat, but, he'll tell you in the next breath that he does believe he lives on a globe. But I've been in talks with him, and we all have, and I don't think he shouts and screams, does he? He gives you a little, he's willing to talk, which that's what you want, isn't it? Out of a conversation, a two-way conversation.
Right. Yeah. And he's voiced that's his belief, even though he knows it's measured flat. Nathan went back and forth to him a few times. Eli. And he just believes we're on a ball, and that's it. It's his belief system.
Well, he makes a mockery. He makes a mockery of reality, though, when he does that, because when you're being shown that the globe does not exist, really, what would you be doing believing in something that doesn't exist? Who's now showing cognitive dissonance, and who needs to go and see the man in the white coats and have your brain checked out? Really? I mean, come on.
I mean, I've changed my tone a bit, really, though, from especially with the Alan Watts video the other day. And, once you've presented the flat Earth measurements and explained how it's measured flat in all instances, even their globe proof is explaining how Earth's measured flat. If then at that point they still are telling you, no, it's a globe and it only works on a globe, well, but if you're going to keep the argument going, they need that for the illusion. Keep your ball. It's not a problem. We've been through it once or twice. You can have the ball.
Yeah.
I'm not bothered.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, don't say you weren't told, though. Don't go around telling anyone you weren't told, because you were told. Okay, good luck now. Good luck with that ball that don't exist.
Hey, Jim, go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, the definition of belief is to accept something without evidence. You got the evidence in front of you that it's a flat plane, and you choose to believe something else.
Mm.
You see how that's not belief?
Well said, mate. Yeah.
Yeah. Deliberate willful ignorance is what he's playing at here, making a mockery of reality, clearly. So when he comes in here, he comes in here to have a discussion. You're discussing somebody just here to make a mockery, which is why he was laughing at Nathan. Do you know what I mean? And he paid the price for that. He got kicked out. Will he be able to come back tomorrow, though? He's not banned forever, is he?
No, that's Mez. We're talking about what's his name? We're talking about Learns. He's like, I think he's a teacher. But I understand your frustration because you're laying it out for them and you're demonstrating how it's flat, and they just want to believe it's a globe. It's like, what's wrong with you? I just told you. You showed me how it's flat.
Once you demonstrate the flat measurement, if they're going to choose to believe it's still a ball, that's on them. The victory, you already had the victory. So if they want to continue to believe it's a ball, let them.
Yeah, and remember, they haven't shown you that the Earth's a globe as well. They have not shown you at all. At all.
Look here, I know Chihuahua exists, but I don't believe in dogs. What do
That's a good one.
Say to me at that point?
Yeah, especially when they're telling you it's flat too, right?
Yeah.
They're telling you it's flat, right?
Yeah.
And then saying, we're on a globe.
Well, yeah, like Edgewise just messaged me from the Globe chat down below. Talking because when you guys were talking about the how your angle doesn't change whether you're in an airplane or on a boat or in a blimp 500 feet above the boat, you're always going to have that 32-degree angle regardless. What did he say? He said, he
Edgewise went from me to you.
And how the bubble section establishes its own horizontal, and it's not the same horizontal as the surface. I'm like, yeah, but it's parallel to it. And the bubble section or the aviation section is establishing its horizontal by way of its bubble. So I just asked him to stop. He doesn't have to ping me with his own flat Earth measurements anymore.
Vaxie, what he's doing is, because I cut him off, I said I will no longer entertain your questions. Come on the show and deal with it yourself. So he came on the show, got his ass handed to him. So now he's sending you messages with the hopes that you'll read them on the show.
It's like Nathan, as long as they're keeping a so-called argument going, they're keeping the illusion of the globe going. They need to be arguing with somebody about this, otherwise it doesn't exist anymore.
Exactly.
You've got to keep the globe alive.
Yep, Conspiracy
Yeah.
Cat's
No, there
exactly
was no
that.
argument.
Yeah.
Yep, in the comment that Conspiracy Cat's left to me, he's like, are you even pretending there's a debate anymore? You're like, you're the one who requires there to be a debate so that you can keep the illusion that you might be right alive. As soon as the debate ends, you have nothing but your own fear of how flat you're measuring Earth. That's all that's left. If I'm arguing with you, then that keeps the pain relief going a little bit longer, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. That's why I cut Buck Sodbuster off. I cut Captain Edgewise off. I no longer respond to anything they send. They know where to come. Same thing with Ranty. He knows how to get in here. He was on the show for how many years, Nathan? All of a sudden he doesn't know how to get in here? Give me a break.
Who?
Ranty.
I mean, I'd love to get somebody on here like, I don't know, like a teacher, like he's not really interested, but just get their honest, when we put this forward to him, how actually Earth's measured flat, and maybe the examples you're giving the children at school are also proving that with the Eratosthenes example, for instance, and then just going through it slowly with them to say, well, can you see how it's not measured? No curvature is being measured. It's just distance across 2 points. We've got elevation angles. We know what an elevation angle is. And go through it like that and see. I want someone's real. I've never heard anybody's real sort of real response into realizing that what you're saying is actually true. I can see what you're saying, One Deck. It makes sense. I need someone to a real honest realization.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. That's what I was going to say. Honest realization from a school teacher would be great.
Well, Michael Lawrence is a school teacher, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a university professor.
Yeah, there you go. They're going to get hit with this.
I will say that there is somebody out there who is, they make a living off that, and that is Mr. Weiss. He has very good talent of going to people's podcasts who have no idea about the subject. And obviously, he's not laid it down how we do here. He's going for the feast of nonsense and what. But he has a way of getting people to react to some flat earth truths or logical inferences, and then he'll cut out their reactions and put them on his channel. And a lot of them are very good. They are worth watching.
So we'll use the standard version with 90s on a flat earth then, Matthew, won't we?
Yes, it's much more practical.
It would be a lot more practical and not kill people to not use your zealot sphere version. Can I just point out for the audience's benefit what that is? Let's put the zealot liar who would have killed everybody's version on screen. Use the standard version with 90s on a flat earth.
Yes, it's much more practical.
The point is, we'll measure Earth flat.
Yes, it's much more practical.
You're a liar, Matthew. No, your version that isn't standard that you said was celestial navigation condemned everybody to death. So given that your mathematical example condemned everybody to death, how dare you teach children anything? How dare you? What school do you work at, Matthew?
Biola University in Los Angeles County, California.
Given how deceitful you've been exposed to be here, when will you be handing in your resignation? You want to hear the first bit again?
Yeah, that was some good shit out of it.
So we'll use the standard version with 90s on a flat earth then, Matthew, won't we?
Yes, it's much more practical.
90s on a flat earth? Yes, it's much more practical. What, won't kill people. Anyway, that's Matthew Learns.
That's the university teacher right there.
It's funny though. He just reminded me over the times we've spoke with him and Nathan because it really riles you, doesn't it, Nathan? Because he's a teacher, he's teaching kids, and I know that really, really gets you. That he's lying to the children. I can hear it in Nathan's voice as over the times he's been in the discussions with Learns. That is.
Yeah, same goes for conspiracy cats. Yeah, Big Daddy government gives them a paycheck to go and lie to kids. And then when they're in front of us, you're like, so we use flat earth elevation angles and 90 degrees to a plane of reference in. Oh, yes, it's much more practical. So you're just lying to the kids that you get paid by Big Daddy government to lie to then. You're quite cool with that, as long as you get a paycheck. Scum. Yeah, I'd rather be poor and not lie to my kids about how Earth gets measured. They would rather have a paycheck from Big Daddy government, and they're more than happy to lie.
There's a reason why they use that word practical. Because to the normies out there, when they hear that word practical, it puts them right back on the globe. Oh, it's safe on the globe again. Yeah, it's just more practical to use it that way, but we're still on the globe.
It's more practical to measure Earth flat.
They're not hearing that, Nathan. They're hearing an alternative way of doing it. Of course, use a flat earth. It's more practical because we have to navigate this globe. That's how they hear it.
That's what they say when we mention the 44 or 94 government agency documents that state that when you're flying an aircraft or in the military, the Navy, and the Air Force, you're firing a projectile, you need to consider Earth to be flat and non-rotating. Flat, non-rotating. It actually says flat Earth, non-rotating Earth. right? And then when you explain that to the Globers, they say, well, the reason they do that is because it's more practical. That's exactly what they say.
So they could normies hear that, and it gives them an excuse to comfort their ball again.
Yeah.
I'll let them. That's my attitude now. I think it was one deck earlier was talking about Alan Watts and his attitude towards people in delusion. You're like, yeah, just let them. It's not your problem anymore.
Yeah, but the answer that it's not practical is incorrect. It's not possible to measure it with respect to a globe.
Agreed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line, isn't it? It's not that it's more practical, it's just it's impossible to do any other way. I'm going to round out. I've got a whole bunch of microphone stuff to do, unfortunately. So with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hitting me up on PayPal, helping out with the transcription of the book and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.